Today, natural disasters are like dominoes. They can destroy lives, communities, and your money. Preparedness is now the name of the game. Now imagine you're FEMA. It's August, early August 2023. The Maui fires hit Hawaii with over 100 deaths and 2,200 buildings and homes destroyed. Then just 8 days later, Hurricane Hillary off Mexico and California flooded parts of the western U.S. Death Valley National Park, kind of the hottest place in America, was flooded and closed. Now imagine you are not FEMA, you're you. What natural and person-made disasters might hit you, your family, your community, your place of business, your spouse's place of business, where you own property, extended family, and their properties? Now, if you can imagine this, new, longer, more unpredictable disasters are on the horizon. Now, mitigation, which we will talk about, is like disaster prevention and preparedness combined with adaptability to meet these new threats. This has got to be the new disaster mindset. Now, for over 20 years, I worked in disaster education, pioneering personal financial readiness prevention, preparation, and response and recovery materials for the American Red Cross, the Japanese Red Cross, and FEMA. Plus, I did graduate training in Homeland Security. Now, just don't take it from me about adaptability. Recently, I was with FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell, who is leading FEMA to build adaptability. She is the top leader of FEMA, appointed by the President and confirmed by the Senate. FEMA is anticipating and acting on future threats and leaning into the increased tempo of what Deanne calls wicked problems. FEMA is assessing risks, building capacity, developing nature-based solutions, promoting smart urban rural planning, along with preparation, response, and recovery, all working to mitigate risks to build resiliency. Now, what does all this have to do with money and your personal finances? Well, everything. Just look at this picture and the description I have about it. This article and this wrinkled old photo of a disaster site in California really struck with me. All these homes burnt down except for one guy. He did mitigation. He stuccoed his house and had a tile roof. Well, I took inspiration from that, stuccoed my wood house and my shake wood roof. I covered it with stone-coated interlocking steel to be able to survive this kind of wildfire disaster. It's about building capacity to avoid or lessen the effects of a disaster or storm or other threats against people, property, and your money. And you're watching What's Next with Money, a program with smart insights to guide your financial decisions. Many disasters illustrate societal inequities, from the flooding in low-lying, poor sections of New Orleans to lower-level apartment flooding in New York City. Now, people died in both places. And you can see our videos on closing wealth gaps to illustrate more of this challenge. And sometimes the disaster comes from a source we would never expect. During and after heavy rains, Houston a few years ago released water from a reservoir onto and into homes with no flood insurance. Deliberate releases to potentially preserve a dam and prevent it from rupturing. Now, a new pattern that FEMA sees all the time are wind events, hurricanes, turning into rain and flooding events. Yep, we're facing more disasters at a faster tempo in new areas with new features and risks, all with growing intensity, duration, and rapidity. Now, that is the changing big picture. But what about me, my family, you ask? So what are targeted preparedness strategies for your money and property? Now, building codes can be your friend, especially if they've been updated. And there's something called green architecture, solutions that use nature and doesn't fight it. Now, my backyard here in Colorado can actually be flooded in the lower area, a flash flood. But the city and the Regional Flood Management District helps us through building water retention areas, parks designed to intentionally flood. And I was parks chair of this city for many years. So just a few hundred feet from me, this park fills with water and then slowly drains into a creek near and behind my house. And speaking of floods, think of this dam that was created to prevent flooding of Denver that is downstream. A 1965 flood that caused the building of a dam just like this had taken 56 lives and $500 million in damage. Folks, we're talking mitigation. And then there's hail-resistant and fire-resistant roofs. And this is the material I chose to put on my home to make it less fire-prone and hail-resistant. What is the situation in your area? What identified risk and understanding of your community, your neighborhood, but also your region? What perils and risks do you face? You can assess risk and model adaptability and solutions. Now, FEMA and the Red Cross want to connect people with tools and awareness, and I'm going to do just that, since I had a hand in creating some of those tools. Now, let me first list a few disaster risks to people, property, and money. Wind events like hurricanes and tornadoes, hail and lightning, building collapse like we've seen in Florida, fire from your neighbor or neighborhood, or an urban wildlife interface. In fact, I actually saw a wildfire start in Colorado Springs just south of me that could have raced into the city. It was the Waldo Canyon fire, resulting in 2 deaths, 346 homes and buildings destroyed, and it destroyed 18,000 burned acres. Folks, this fire went from late June to nearly mid-July. It lasted 18 days till it was put out. And to mitigate, we want to try to use fire-resistant material and build and create defensible spaces. Those rebuilt neighborhoods in that area have just that. Then we have earthquake danger, and that is separate insurance with high deductibles and high copays. And related to earthquake might be tsunamis, which could create floods, and I think we would need flood insurance, which is also separate coverage. Landslides, and then volcanoes. Yes, volcanoes. I was in Hawaii a few months ago and Iceland, and both have volcanoes. And then there's something called mine subsidence. Yep, it's a real thing in areas where there's been underground mining and the earth kind of collapses. We have the kind of normal things to be prepared for: extreme cold or winter storm, extreme heat, and we've all gone through a big pandemic 100-year event together. So if you're getting value from this video, be sure to hit that subscribe and that like button, and don't forget to share. Well, we want to talk about money interrupted. What does that mean? In a disaster setting, it can mean cash flow, kind of stops or slows. It could mean salary and benefits stop or are delayed. And then we have new out-of-pocket costs, relocation, temporary food, shelter, transportation, medicines, and always deductibles and copays with insurance. And in some cases, we have tax issues we want to understand and tap into. And if our property's been damaged, we need to document those issues and part of our response and recovery. Think about safety and security. And it may take time, and you might have to enlist helpers and work with the insurance company. And the kind of insurance ultimately we would like to have on our homes and property is replacement cost coverage. Replacement cost coverage. Now, according to FEMA Administrator Criswell, insurance companies and regulators are going to drive reform in what is affordable and buildable. Please see our video called What to Do When Homeowners Insurance is Unaffordable and Hard to Get. Now, here are 4 practical ways to prepare financially for a disaster. Number 1, buy the right kind of insurance. What are the threats and dangers to your home, apartment, and workplace? What are you facing? You want to have homeowners insurance. And then if you are at a condo or townhome, you need that kind of insurance. And if you rent, you want renter's insurance. You might need a home office rider for these. And then there are state insurance pools for coastal properties and maybe fire-prone areas where insurance is hard to get and private companies have left the area. Federal flood insurance is separate coverage, and are you vulnerable there? What about earthquake insurance? That's separate. And special riders like sewer backup, or maybe a rider dealing with changes in building codes or upgrades. You can always get riders for certain possessions and collectibles. Now, mortgages mandate that you have homeowners insurance, including flood insurance if you're in that risk area. But what if your house is paid off? You really need to keep that coverage. And seniors, please, keep your coverage, including your flood insurance. For the insurance settlement, you might end up needing to take a tax deduction for a casualty loss, or in some tax situations where FEMA and the SBA, the Small Business Administration, has helped you in a declared disaster area with federal loans or grants. Number 2, conduct a household inventory. And renters, this applies to you as well. Document what you own on your phone, upload it in the cloud, put it on a flash drive or a CD-ROM in a safe deposit box that is away from the disaster area or risks you face. Shoot room by room and narrate it. Get the kids involved. Let them talk on it. Shoot the house, any outbuildings, boats, cars, even your trees and landscaping, before and after. And any remodeling you've done, update that in this inventory. We're talking about 4 ways to prepare financially for a disaster. Here's number 3. Use a go box or evacuation box. Identify alternative escape routes, safe meeting places, and develop a family communication system, kind of like a secret password for child security. And let them know about the natural, person-made, or commercial risks you might face that might call for an evacuation. Make sure photos, flash drives, CDs, documents, financial, personnel, medical records, key contact information in some form you may have with you. And you might actually want some of these printed out. Cash, a phone, backup power, charging accessories, radio, flashlight, and security. Your keys, your garage openers, medicine and prescriptions. Take a good supply of those, but have in digital or printed form any prescriptions for refills. First aid, water, food that you can take with you, your identification, safe deposit keys, copies of credit cards front and back. Just put them on the copier, shoot it, flip it over, and then you've got it because you've got those key contact numbers right there. Tax returns. All this could be backed up on the cloud, but you may need it in some other form. Emergency contacts like financial institutions, advisors, medical personnel, and extended family. And think about heirlooms. You may want to physically store certain kinds of valuables outside of the area of the risk. And number 4, in our 4 ways to prepare, mitigation. Now, you've heard my story of putting the metal roof on, and we'll have links to how to do some of this. Smoke detectors. There are 2 kinds. You may not know this. There's the ionization kind that detect flame, and photoelectric that is sensitive to smoke or smoldering. And a combination of the 2 is usually called a dual smoke detector. And then carbon monoxide detectors. Sometimes that can be co-housed with one of those. Usually these detectors have to be replaced in a 10-year period. And you want to then have a safety or defensible space around your home with brush, trees trimmed, cleaning gutters, screens that could catch embers. And don't forget attic vents. They can also do that. And your house numbers, at least have 2 sets on your home or around your property. Maybe one in your mailbox, reflective, and one on your house. And get recommendations from your local fire department, emergency manager, police, and insurance company. If you're out in the earthquake country, A seismic sensor might be good to attach to a natural gas line that could shut that off if there's an earthquake. And you want access to water and a good fire protection, and just kind of be aware that what is the health of the fire protection district in your area. You certainly can upgrade from dangerous, vulnerable materials, and you can introduce new types of mitigation techniques like hurricane shutters, hurricane clips. These are perfect for housing maintenance, and they can enhance property values. Plus, it makes all this last longer and perhaps lower your insurance premium. And you can get the family involved where you can all focus on safety and know why you're making these changes and have a preparedness mindset for the risk you face. And we've gone through a lot of this as a team together. 9/11, various fires, tornadoes, floods, and certainly hurricanes. And get preparation material. If you have to evacuate or bug out for threats you may face in advance, be ready to evacuate with confidence. And what do I mean by that? You can do and engage in active and conditional home mitigation. Have pre-filled sandbags if you're in a flood area or high wind event that could turn to a flood event around garage doors, other doors. Pre-purchased plywood, pre-drilled to cover windows or other places, maybe your place of business. Have bottled water on hand before there are lines at hardware and the big box stores. So don't wait till the last minute. We want to gas or charge up our vehicles early and have emergency savings as well. That's a form of mitigation. Have cash and keep room on your credit cards, making sure you're not even close to your credit limit in case you have to do more purchases. Now, I want to cross-promote other videos we have. We've done a video called Act Quickly to Recover Financially from a Natural Disaster, and what to do when homeowners insurance is unavailable or unaffordable. And then if you want to really get involved, you can join CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, in your state, county, or city. Now CERT was created by the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA, really after 9/11. And there's a role for everyone to play, and we'll have a link of how you can get involved. They do preparedness activities, seminars, webinars. You're going to learn if you're part of a CERT team, not only you get maybe a cool go bag, you'll know who to call. What is the status of emergency preparedness in your area? What new threats are up? Networks, and know what to do. I got that training and got involved as it applies to our regional bus and rail transit system, so I became a CERT volunteer related to that, but I learned so much more. And then, yes, if you're hungry, there's always Waffle House. Yes, Waffle House has an ability to keep operating during and through disasters when the power goes out. Waffle House operations are kind of an indicator of what's going on with the severity of the disasters. And recently I met with the chief of staff of the corporation in Atlanta, and we traded a lot of fun stories. Well, how do we get engaged? It comes down to motives, motivation, and messaging to be more prepared and disaster resilient and adaptable. So here's some ways to kind of tie in and maybe up the preparedness mindset and adaptability of your coworkers and family. Let's say you could ask the question, are you a planner? Do you like arranging family events like graduations, a quinceanera, birthdays? What about protecting the legacy of your family and its heritage? Think about the memories, your home, your land, and special items. And this is the broader extended family. Would you like to be a help in your community or through faith-based institutions? You want to save money on insurance and maybe not have to rebuild something if you've mitigated properly so you and your home can be safe. And in that way, if you've got your property really buttoned up and in good shape by mitigation, you can, with confidence, help others, including other family members, especially seniors and folks with special needs. So assess needs and make a plan. A friend of mine, noted speaker Dr. Willie Jolly, talks about a setback being a setup for success. And most successful people can identify 1 minute, one moment where their lives changed or pivoted, and it usually occurred in times of adversity. So be ready. And be ready to hit that subscribe button. We would really appreciate it. I'm Brett Neiser, looking to see you next time on What's Next with Money, and check out our video on what to do when homeowners insurance is unavailable or unaffordable.